So this tutorial is going to cover the sweep feature in Creo, and we're going to create the part shown on this primer document, which as you can see is just a normal Allen key or hex wrench if you prefer. And essentially this feature is being created by sketching a hexagonal shape, which we can regard as the cross section of this feature, and then also sketching a path or trajectory for the hexagonal shape to travel along and create the solid geometry here. So let's get into Creo and get started on creating that feature. So let's, as we said before, the first thing that you want to do when you drop into Creo is select your working directory, so that the system knows which folder you want to save the files in, because if you don't do this, it will try and save them in the documents folder on the local machine. So you need to set your working directory first, and then when you've done that, you can create a fresh file. If you want to save these files for later reference, maybe give them a descriptive name. Sweeps might be good for this one. And then the first thing that we're going to do, rather than following the exact order of instructions on the primer document, which is insert the sweep feature first, we're actually going to sketch the trajectory first. So this path that we're going to send the hexagonal shape along, we're going to create that first, so the shape of the path. And I think we'll do this on the top plane here. So we select the top plane, click on sketch. We're going to start our path with a straight line. We're going to start this line on the origin point, so you can see I'm snapping to the origin there, and I'm just going to sketch upwards, drop a second point on the vertical there, and then just pull this third point out to the left, and then just click again. And then I don't need the line tool anymore, so I'm going to hit escape and select the fillet tool here. So fillet, and I want to place a circular fillet between this line and this line. You can see the fillets just appeared there. So again, I'm going to hit escape to get out of the fillet tool, and then I'm going to put my own values in for these dimensions. I'm going to put 170 in for this one. And then what I may do is just drag this one manually, and maybe drag this radius as well till I get it near what I want it to be. Drag this one down a little bit more. Yeah, so I'd be happy with 70 for the value of that, and maybe change this to 25. So that looks about right for our purposes. So that's our trajectory for the swept part. And next I'm going to select the sweep icon up here. So we'll select that. You can see there, if I just go back before I did that, I still have my sketch selected at this point. And what that means is, as I tell the system that I want to create a new sweep feature, which I'm doing there, it assumes that the sketch that I already had selected is what I want to use in the sweep. So it's already selected that as my sketch for my trajectory. So that's quite a good way of doing it. Let's say I didn't have my sketch selected, so if I want to deselect anything, I can just click in some blank space in the modeling window. You can see the sketch has changed from green back to blue again. And then if I was to create the sweep feature, it doesn't select the sketch, and I have to manually open this references option, click on select items here, and then select it again, and you can see it selected it. So the next portion of this, if we get the primer back, so essentially we've done this stage here first, and then we've looped back round and done this stage here, And then what we're doing is we're moving on to stage 2 and stage 3. In fact, we've actually gone through stages 2 and 3 already, and it's the section sketch that we're about to create. So that would be the cross-sectional shape, which in this case is the hexagonal shape here. So let's do that now. The way that we access that is the sketcher icon here. And again, if you hover over any of these icons, you tend to get a description of what they're going to do. So this one says create or edit sweep section, which is what we've just said. We're going to create the cross-sectional shape. So you can see as soon as I click on that, it rotates me around, so I'm viewing the plane that I'm going to sketch on, normal 2. And we need a hexagonal shape, and that would be inside the palette tool here. So we can see there 6-sided hexagon. So if we click, hold down our mouse button and drag into the main window here, and then as we let go we get this hexagon shape. So I'm going to grab the center of that hexagon and drag it onto the origin point. You can see that it's snapping itself to the origin. So I'm going to let go. That's now snapped. I can close this palette tool down and I can OK that hexagon. And what that does is it shows me all the constraints that are on that hexagon that have been put there by the system, and it shows me this weak dimension that the system has put on. Now with most Allen keys, the way that they're sized and referenced is the distance from one flat to the other flat. So this distance along a flat edge is not what I want. So let's see what happens when I select the dimension tool, the normal dimension tool, click on one of the flat edges, click on the other flat edge that's opposite it, and then click somewhere in between them with the middle button to place my dimension. You can see that this error window has popped up, and what this is saying is there's a conflict in your sketch between either 2 dimensions or a dimension and some constraints, and you need to tell me how you would like me to resolve that. Now in our case, as I've already said, we don't want this dimension across 2 of the points here. So the length of an edge we're not interested in. What we're interested in dimensioning is the distance from one flat face to the other flat face. So what we can do is we find the dimension that we want to get rid of. So in this case it's selected the correct one, and then we just hit delete. And what that's done is it's resolved that conflict, and it's dropped us into this entry box for this dimension, and I think I'll make this an 8mm Allen key. So you can see that that sketch is now scaled down. So we'll OK the sketch, and as soon as I do, you can see the preview that it's given me of the sweep feature, which is fairly close to the one in the primer. You can see there. I think what we'll do is we'll probably OK that feature, but then we'll adjust some of the values just to make it a little bit closer to the ratio of the length of this portion to the length of this portion. So if we right click on that sketch that we put in first, and then we can edit the values of that sketch and maybe shrink this one down slightly to 60, something like that. So that's the sweep feature.